Hello again, friends! And you are our friends, and there is no time to waste. Welcome to another edition of Jim Cornette's Drive Thru. I'm your host, the great Brian Last, and here he is, the star of the show, a man who's so irrelevant that, I can't even remember his name. Here is old what's-his-name.
Heavenly shades of night are falling. It's twilight time. No, I'm not talking about the twilight of AEW, although we may be doing that later. But I'm telling Brian, it's later in the day than normal. And we have mentioned to the throngs out there, the listeners, the cult of Cornette, the people. We have mentioned that over the next couple of weeks, my schedule, your schedule, everybody in the Arcadian Vanguard vortex as personal schedules, and we may be bopping in and out. And today what we're going to do, because we've just released a couple of omnibuy that are just hours and hours long of infinite entertainment, today we're going to hit the high points of what's gone on the past couple of days on the television wrestling and a few other things that we've jotted down, and we're going to blow through that, and we're going to hit the hits. The hits are going to keep on coming today. And we're not going to break down in these bogged down in these sub-referencing and getting sidetracked, going down the rabbit hole, digressing, as Mama Cornette used to say, where we're just talking about one thing and then we branch off completely into another thing. And by the time we talk about that, then we're talking about something else. And by the time that we get into that, we don't really even know if we finished up what we were doing beforehand. What was I talking about?
I don't know. Where are we? Where are you?
I'm right here at home.
Oh, well, I'm over here now. Well, again, this is my show, and we have a lot of things to talk about. We're not going to get sidetracked with anything. I think that's what you were trying to say, and you got sidetracked. But where was I going?
You may be digressing. We're going to have just a snappy show today, filled with fun and frivolity and enlightenment and education for all concerned.
That's right. For all
so it's your show, so where the fuck are we going?
And no AI. That's the promise here at the start of the show. That's how you can tell there's no AI, ladies and gentlemen. We're starting early, but we're starting late. No AI on this episode.
You know, it's about time we should have long ended up by now. So we may be getting a bit peaked today. You know, I'm old. I'll be 63 years old in a couple weeks. September 17th, by the way. For those of you who want to send gifts or cake.
It's not what it used to be. I don't think you're old until you hit 70 anymore.
Fuck you. I got the right to be old. I didn't sleep for a lot for many, many years in a row for dwelling on the wrestling and obsessing on the wrestling. So I'm actually in Cornette years, I'm probably about 71.
What's easier to manage, wrestlers or trees?
Well, still the trees, because it takes a goddamn horrible natural occurrence to topple a tree, but it takes a lot of goddamn oddball, everyday, stupid occurrences to topple a wrestler.
All right. We're going to top and topple a wrestler. Let's... So,
good year. Have you topped many wrestlers?
I have not. Have you? Or toppled?
Well, you never know. Are you tippling or toppling or what are you? Let's move along.
If I can get booked in Stardom, then there'll be a toppling of me. But, Jim, like we said, we're going to hit the high points. And why don't we start with WWE Raw? Again, it's not going to be the whole episode, but just the good stuff, actually. Why don't we talk about what you saw, what we're going to talk about?
Well, we got about three things. I want to talk about the two main segments that happened, because the rest of the stuff in the middle was kind of more rawishness. But let's do it at the top of the program. What do you think about Joe Tessitore?
You know, I thought he did really well for two reasons. One, he was like Michael Cole in an unoffensive way. It didn't sound as fake as it can. And I thought he did a good job. And, you know, secondly, I think he did a good job because when it was unimportant, I was able to just tune him out and pay attention to the wrestling. And I know that sounds weird, but sometimes with some of these people, they're just screaming at you for no reason. His voice went up and down at the right moments at times.
Well, but now I got to say, I saw what during the Punk segment, which we're going to talk about. I think they may have gotten his ear because they're fighting on the desk in front of him, and he's calling it like a golf tournament. And then suddenly he's, oh my gosh, and then he kicked it up a notch. But I felt like.
Well, no, at one point he's like, and he's got the bracelet, and he broke the beads.
And I mean, it's gonna be a feeling out process. But I thought that he was trying to be very emotive with his facial expressions when they did the on-camera pitches. While at the same time he's having to read his notes because it's his first week, and he doesn't. You can study all you want, but. But the thing is, are people just going to accept, because Michael Cole started on syndication or whatever, right? Everybody started somewhere. I get the famous flops like the Mike Adamle, and who was the other fellow that didn't take to it? I can't remember the guy's name.
Adnan something.
What? There you go. Casey?
Yeah. Now, wasn't that Adnan?
But are the fans that dedicatedly watch the program going to accept a guy that they've never heard of before in the chair of the main chair of the main show?
Oh, yeah. I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think they've been pretty accepting of outsiders. That Kevin Patrick lasted a long time whispering to people and getting excited.
I think that's because of Kevin Dunn more than the people, saying, oh, Kevin's a fine fellow.
But that's my point. There wasn't a big outcry, though. Like, people like us would talk about how ridiculous he was and how bad he was at this specific thing. But the common fan there, it wasn't like there were signs popping up or anything. I think they'll like this guy because I think he's a wrestling fan. Obviously, they'll always be in his ear, but it seemed like he picked up on what to do pretty quickly. Unless he has like a bunch of mistakes like within the next few weeks, because those will go viral quickly. He'll be fine, I think.
He'll be fine.
And wasn't he like Nick Khan's first client or something?
Oh, God, I don't know. I don't remember if we talked about this. I've put it out of my mind. But.
I think he may have been like client number 1 for Nick Khan.
Oh, geez. Okay, well, he's figured in. It's like when I told that, oh, my God, when Ring of Honor was on HDNet, and in HDNet, the fight, department, wrestling, boxing, UFC, MMA, well, not UFC, but MMA, whatever. Guy Mesger was the, head of that department, I guess, at the time. And he came to one of the tapings, and I was trying to help, transform that thing into a viewable television program, even though nobody could view HDNet. When they had Mike Hogwood doing the announcing, yeah. And the thing I said, we will not live long enough for Mike Hogwood to be a good wrestling announcer. And then I found out that was the guy that hired him to begin with. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ.
I have an article from a couple of months ago in the New York Post when they first announced that Joe Tessitore was the new commentator on Raw. And it says here, the job is something of a full circle moment for Joe, who was the first media client of WWE President Nick Khan.
Well, there you go.
Oh, man. If you're like the second client, are you calling Nick Khan right now like, hey, you hiring anyone?
Winner Raw switches guys because Nick Khan's your guy, Tessitore.
So are you saying you got a bad feeling for this off the first night?
I think he's kind of, he's kind of a smooth announcer, but I don't know that he had settled in there, and he was trying a little hard on the emoting at the desk.
Hey, listen, how many announcers can settle in very quickly in a new place? Jim Ross famously had struggles with that in WWF, and a lot of that was Vince McMahon's management of the commentators.
Well, yeah, but normal, sane people are in charge now. Allegedly.
It'll be interesting because, again, if he grew up watching the Vince McMahon, Kevin Dunn wrestling only, that's the only style of commentating he knows. Basically, Vince McMahon into Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler into Michael Cole.
All those guys got into Michael Cole? Yes. I didn't know Michael was that kind of guy.
They toppled each other.
But you're just okay. You're going to be a Tessitore guy, is what you're going to get the shirt. I'm a Tessitore guy because is it because of your mutual Italian backgrounds?
Well, I'm not Italian, first of all, and second of all, I would never get a shirt like that for anyone.
I think secretly you're Italian because of your fetish about the New York pizza, just a certain fucking way.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but what I'm going to say is there was nothing he did on this first episode of Raw that made me think this is a problem. Or they've made a mistake, or that he won't grow into this by week, in the coming weeks. By week 2, he may be better than week 1.
When did I say any of those things?
You're ready to cut the guys. You're ready to send them to Mike Adamley Island. What are you talking about?
I was.
Who are the other failures, Brian, in the history of Raw? Let's name every failed commentator you can think of.
Not comparing his work to these other twats. I was saying that like the fans, do they normally want just a brand new guy that they've never seen before? He's been on ESPN or whatever. I've never fucking seen him. I could have picked him out of a police lineup. Do they want somebody suddenly just vaulting right into the fucking main chair there?
See, that's one of the things about commentators in other sports. Unless you're like a real hardcore fan and you watch every minute of it, you may just only know them by the voice. You may have no idea what they look like.
Well, I'm not saying he's an ugly looking man either. You're twisting my words.
That wasn't my words or the words I was trying to twist. I wasn't trying to twist
I'm saying
anything.
that if Vince was still here, when they went to a death shot, they would either have him wearing a towel over his head or put a blue dot over his face.
All right, listen. This quick episode of the Drive Thru, we've spent 11 minutes on Joe Tessitore.
Joe Tessitore. So one of the main story running through the evening from first to last was Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest and Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio and the associated peripheral members of this love quadrangle and fucking backstabbing bunch of bullshit, right, that they're going through. They all hate each other. Have I set that up quick enough?
Yes.
Okay, so the first segment was 15 minutes long, and they actually spoke what in the territory days would have been 2 minutes of content. Did you notice this?
What do you mean?
Mommy comes out, Rhea comes out, says, "Welcome to Monday Night Mommy." She looks great. She's a huge star. The fans love her. Well, by the time her entrance, the people are cheering so loud and so long. All she has to basically do is say, "I pinned the women's champion, so I want a title match with Liv Morgan." And music plays. And here comes Dominic. And did you see the black eye? Was that from the mixed tag, I wonder?
I'm not certain where it came from, but it looked good.
Oh, you're saying he might have just been mugged on the street.
He may have fallen and hit the corner of the bed.
Fallen and hitting?
Fallen and hitting the corner of the bed. You never know what's going on there with these crazy kids.
That should have been Henry and Phineas Godwin's finish, the fallen and hitting.
Better than a slop drop.
Well, it just depends on, but nevertheless, we're not supposed to sub-reference. Boy, the show ain't going to be any fun. So Dominic comes out, and it's every time he opens his mouth, they scream boo over him. That's the thing, and the crowds love it, and over, and they chant, "You suck." And he basically, it takes him 5 minutes to get out the point that Liv is still recovering from being accosted in Berlin, but they would these people are so over, they're out there for 15 minutes to have a minute and a half back and forth conversation because people will not stop screaming and having fun. It's almost at this point, when I think of how hard I used to fucking work, I don't want to speak for anybody else. I'm like, God damn it. Stand out there and fart in a microphone. I wonder if the windscreens would sell on the website. Damian Priest farted windscreen.
Pretty sure they could sell them if it's the girls doing it.
Well,
some of the weirdos out there.
I'll bid $250 for Rhea's.
What? Behave yourself.
Anyway, so Rhea told Dominic that he was stupid in Spanish and she'll fight Liv anytime, any place, anywhere, Alice. Bang, zoom to the moon. It's what's going to happen. As soon as she says that, boom, Liv attacks her. But Rhea nails her, knocks her off, and grabs Dominic, and then Liv gets back on her. And when Liv comes back to save Dominic, because Dominic's on the floor, and Rhea has gone over and reached through and grabbed him. And when Liv hits Rhea from behind, she falls forward, and her ankle, is tied in the ropes, and she's hanging upside down. And she's helpless, like she's caught in a trap. She can't walk out because she's caught up in the ropes, baby. And then Liv starts kicking, and I think she lived through 5 or 6 kicks at her leg and may have hit it once or twice. But do you follow me on Twitter, Brian? Have I blocked you yet?
No, not yet. I do follow you on Twitter.
Did you see when I retweeted what somebody said about this spot?
Yeah, someone really gave Liv Morgan a lot of credit for saving this from the big botch that Rhea committed.
Yes, they said, can you imagine the professionalism and the improvisation on the spot of Liv Morgan to cover up when this unfortunate accident happened to Rhea Ripley? What a true professional. I said, well, you bulbous-headed dipshit. What about the professional? And I hate to unkayfabe their spot, but I said the professionalism was on Rhea Ripley's part in this perfectly placed and perfectly timed spot that she did so that Liv could jump out there and hit 20% of her kicks on a stationary target. This spot, and I saw Lou Thez do this with the Garvin brothers in 1973 on, I think it was Birmingham television, because I remember Sterling Brewer calling it. And then Jimmy Garvin, who at the time was dressing more effeminately than goddamn Liberace, as the manager of Ron and Terry Garvin, kicked over and over, kicked Lou Thez in the ass while he was hanging upside down. And then Lou Thez cut a promo where he actually said the word ass in 1973. I've never heard it. He said, well, but the thing is, he also said another word. He said, I'll be damned if I'll let the F word fellow kick me in the ass on television.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was big down in Birmingham at the time, ladies and gentlemen. But anyway, Rhea did this better than Thez did. That's what I was going to say with that. So,
and she didn't insult anyone in the process.
No, she hung up there and boom, and then Priest came running out for the save with no music. Thank God they've at least loosened up on that thing too. And heels ran off, and this set up the show-long thing where... explain this to me, Brian. Now that Rhea's leg was injured at the top of the program, they were going to fight the Judgment Day somehow, but now because Rhea can't be Damian Priest's partners, he's worried that the match is going to be canceled or whatever, so she's going to find him a partner. But if she was the partner, were they going to wrestle two of the guys? Was this explained?
That was not explained, or at least I didn't hear the explanation, but that was the same thought I had. It was going to be a mixed match on one side?
Well, yeah, but it wouldn't be because they don't do those. So the plot line, I'm loving it. It's the story is over like crazy, and I'm loving Ripley and even Liv as long as she doesn't wrestle and all this stuff. She's great, and Dominic is a heat magnet. But this didn't make sense. And then she started teasing because of her apparently special relationship with Jay Yeet that it was going to be him, and they teased that until the end of the show when we find out, well, guess what? It is going to be fucking him.
At least they did that. Even though I'm not a fan of his in-ring stuff, the fans have been chanting for him to be aligned with this for a few weeks now, so at least they got a payoff for it.
Well, and I wish they'd keep aligned with this instead of, because right before Jay yeeted out to yeet with them, he and Braun Breaker were yeeting at each other. And I don't want to see that match because I'm afraid that it will not look good for Braun, who's possibly not experienced enough to cover up for the just bullshit work that Jey Uso. He's over as fuck, but his work is bullshit. But anyway, we go to the end and then we'll jump back, turn around and kiss ourselves, because Priest and Yeet wrestled Finn and JD. So if Jey Uso's taking Rhea's, apparently, well, Rhea kicks the shit out of JD anyway. Right? So I guess that wouldn't have been a mismatch. This match was broken up by such breaks and etc. The babyface's entrance was an entire segment by itself. And because they're screaming at them for, because they're all over. And then they came back for the bell and the start of the match, and they were to break again in 3 minutes. So finally, we're going to the finish, because this is what drives me crazy. Again, these people are over. They're drawing all kinds of fucking money. I'm loving the story. But the goddamn wrestling sucks these days. Because at one point, finally, Priest is making a comeback. And he knocks the shit out of Finn Balor. Something that looks good, and went for the choke slam, and Finn just rolled him up. And as soon as Priest kicked out of that, Finn got up and started running and hitting the ropes. And so the heel not only foiled the babyface's finish, but he no-sold all the bumps he'd taken in the babyface's comeback, including the big clothesline or Zabadai, where as soon as he goes to be choke slammed, he can just roll him up and continue on. Do you see what I'm saying here, Brian? 0 to hero.
I see what you're saying.
And then here's the thing. After, because they had gotten heat on Jey Uso, right? So when he had tagged Priest to make that comeback, here's what had happened. Jey Uso had been punching JD, and then JD, and I mean, insert your joke here, headbutted Uso, so that may be enough to kill him. But Uso then jumped up, turned around and kissed myself, jumped up and hit him with an enziguri, and they both were down. So technically, the last offensive move that was hidden, there you go, was from Jey Uso. And when Jey Uso made the tag, I put the stopwatch on it. You didn't see him again for 2 solid minutes. While Priest was making a comeback and Finn was doing all that stuff where he fucking just, instantly came back to life and went back and forth. Uso's laying on the ground somewhere from tagging when he was the last guy to strike a blow. Do you see why this doesn't make sense?
I do.
Do you see why it may be a television product, but there's 12,000 people in the fucking arena? And part of the art of wrestling, it was and is being able to occupy everyone in a satisfactory position where it's a contest and you're doing this in one take in theater and around in front of people. And even in OVW, whenever we would give finishes for television or for the major house shows, I would illustrate to the guys. When they would pitch me shit, I'd say, what's so-and-so doing? Well, we hip tossed him. Okay, that was a minute ago. He ain't gonna sell the hip toss that long. You've got to know where everybody is, and you got to keep everybody from standing with their dick in their hand, waiting for a spot, or having to be just standing there while other things transpire. And also in a finish, the spotlight has to go on these 2 guys doing this thing, and then maybe these 2 guys doing this thing, or one of the guys and a manager doing this thing. And it has to go from one thing to the other rather than all happening at the same time, or the people miss shit. And it could even be spotlight for 4 seconds, bump, and over here, other side of the ring, spotlight for 7 seconds while that transpires. but it has to go bing, bing, bing instead of all at the same time. And you can't just goddamn die or crawl under the fucking ring or sit there eating your fucking lunch for 2 minutes without 12,000 people seeing you. Even if you're not shooting you on camera. That's the art of wrestling. Occupy everybody. And if you can't, don't do what you're trying to do something else. Then basically when you saw Uso again after all this other stuff had happened, he hopped up to the apron to blind tag Priest on the shoulder and immediately come off the top with a crossbody on both the heels. So like he went from laying on the floor, I guess, unconscious, to suddenly jumping off the fucking top rope. You see where I'm going with this?
Amphetamines.
And then Priest was gone. And the last move that Priest had done was to double clothesline the heels. And Uso had tagged him on the back. But so Uso tags him on the back while he's doing a double clothesline. And when he lands, he just rolls out of the ring and he's gone. While Liv comes out and crotches Uso on the top rope. And JD and Finn start double teaming Uso. And then Priest, who last double clotheslined these individuals, comes back and makes a save. And everybody sells. And then Rhea's music plays. And then she comes out and hits Liv with her crutch and chases her hopping on one leg. And then the baby faces beat JD, of course, 1, 2, 3. The chase on one leg was fucking great, but God damn it, try on the finishes to keep everybody involved and make everything exciting without just making people have to disappear, right? Am I being too picky? But when you notice so bad, where is this motherfucker? Was he in the match? That's 2 minutes is too long.
I don't think you're being too picky. You're critiquing it the way people would want you to critique it. And that was the main event of Raw. But like you said, we're going to go back and we're going to review at least one other segment that was pretty big on the show, or at least a couple of segments comprised of one angle.
Well, yeah, or however you want to say it. And by the way, I just want to make a couple of observations. Model Girl was in a 6-man tag again. You may have disagreed with me before when I was talking about how skinny she is, but do you see now she's losing weight by the day, by the week? She's so skinny right now, her fallopian tubes aren't plural. I mean, it's just, I don't see how she's going to be able to stand up to the pressure of strong winds and taking bumps much longer. Do you?
I didn't watch this. I mean, she's a skinny...
I don't even talk about the match,
woman.
Just the human being. I fear for her safety. Her legs may break off and stick up her ass. Well, then where would you be with legs broken off and stuck in your ass?
In AEW.
Well, there you go. No, a lot of people there deserve a boot broken off in their ass. Anyway, the 9 o'clock hour was the other piece of business we have to talk about because this one harkened back to the days of heat. Heat. The 9 o'clock hour came. They need stars out there. They need people that the fans want to see. And all of a sudden, like Mussolini, coming out happy. Punk is smiling right at me.
Oh, God.
No, did you see? He came out, he was happy. Smiling faces. Sometimes, I guess that song doesn't fit, but he was, what makes you happy? Then why the hell are you? Well, that don't fit either.
That's not the song either. It's if it makes you happy, not what makes you happy.
Well, what makes you happy?
Me?
All right, anyway, Punk came out happy. He's smiling because he won in Berlin. He won in Berlin. He conquered the Drew McIntyre. He got that bracelet. He got a big pop. The CM Punk chants. Got a big pop for his line. Isn't it great to be alive and well in, where were they? Wartburg, Denver, Colorado. 2 nights in a row counting the NXT thing. So they're selling 20-some thousand tickets out there. Folks, not even newsworthy anymore. And he reacts to his win, and then he switches gears and he does an entire promo where he said, remember I said I'm not here to make friends, I'm here to make money. And he explains how he wants Gunther for the world title next. I put Drew McIntyre to sleep. It's time that CM Punk woke up as champion. And he's got the energy, and again, he's talking to him, and he's engaging, and he did it long enough that you're thinking that, well, okay, yeah, now the next big fucking match, because he just won, he's got his shit back, is Punk and Gunther. That'll be goddamn interesting. And he says, I'm going to take the world title from Gunther and play my funky music, white boy. Well, he didn't actually say that. But he called for his music, and it's playing, and he got out, and he slapped some hands at some fans. He's on the announce desk. This is right about where they always go to break, right? And suddenly his fucking Punk looks down, and his feet get jerked out from under him. And it's Drew McIntyre in a black hoodie covering his identity, slinking in like a thief in the dark. And he beat the shit out of Punk, and he slammed his head into the desk. And Wade Barrett finally, the old friend, because they're from across the pond together, some part of the United Kingdom. I can't keep track of where everybody, but they sound somewhat alike. Wade's his old friend. He's backing him up. And that's where I thought Tessitore was at one point was calling it like a car race, maybe. And now Wade is backing him up. And there was a shit kicking 3 feet in front of him, but then he kind of panicked him a little bit more. But McIntyre blows around Wade Barrett and Claymored Punk over the desk and throws him in the ring, and a Claymore in the ring. And now here come the agents, but god damn it. Most of them are grown adults, and Jamie Noble's there too. I kid. I wanted to pop some of the other boys. But they could do something besides hold their hands up, right? And fucking, just adopt these poses where they're like, please don't do this. Try to restrain him, let him jerk away, whatever. But anyway, Drew's on him still again. He takes the bracelet and breaks it and gets the beads and shove 'ems. He shove 'ems is what he did.
Oh, he did it.
He shoved them in Punk's mouth, and then as Punk is staggering up, he hits another Claymore to his face, and Punk goes down, and he's choking on the beads. And then Pierce is out there, the referees, and they're trying to restrain him, and finally McIntyre leaves, and the EMTs come out with the wheelie stretcher, and they're going to tape Punk down and try to figure, does he need oxygen? Is he choking on these beads? His neck? Is he broken? Whatever. What the fuck's going on? And then right when they come back from the break, as soon as they replay that in a split screen, they're showing Punk being wheeled through the back as they take him to wherever the ambulance must have parked in the fucking discount lot, because they were wheeling him quite a ways. But as they're going through the back, there's McIntyre again and hops on him, and boom, and he rips a neck brace off, and he's choking him, and he gouges his eyes, and now Punk's bleeding from the mouth. Is it throat damage from the beads, or is it blah, blah, blah? And there's an element of chaos going on. So I liked that just as, again, this is more grown up than the shit that we were having to watch. What was it this time last year? Has it been a little longer now? Time flies when you have fun.
Tessitore made a comment on commentary, of all places.
Well, what a fucking place to stick a comment in when he's doing his commentary.
He made a comment on commentary about how this has been the most heated rivalry in WWE all year. And I said to you after the pay-per-view, where Punk pretty decisively beat Drew McIntyre, where do they go from here? What's the next thing? They just had the gimmick match, and we saw what happened. Is that the end for now? And They certainly teased into that with the Gunther promo, which made you think, oh, that's something I haven't thought about. And now they heated this thing back up. What do you think? What do you think of them doing this? And what do you think? I mean, you saw this kind of feud in Memphis. Again, it's a little different, but the never-ending feud where one guy can never one-up the other.
And this is, again, they've had 2 matches now. I mean, if it was the territory days, my God, think of how many times Dusty Rhodes wrestled Kevin Sullivan in Florida, or Lawler wrestled Lawler and Dundee, and just in one series went like 13 weeks in Memphis. So they have way not worn this out yet. It's just that modern fans aren't really used to it because they can't keep it interesting a lot of the time. But if you've got something like this that is firing on all cylinders, keep going. And even if they had originally planned, well, I'll blow it off in Berlin, the blow off in Berlin. The story behind Lawler and Dundee's run in the summer of '77 in Memphis, and I say 13 weeks, actually over a 13-week period, they were against each other in some stipulation, in some fashion, I believe in 11 weeks of those shows, and sold right under 100,000 tickets in one building in the same city. And Jarrett was going to blow it off at the end of August. And that's where they did the deal where it was end of August, or maybe even the first weekend of September, Labor Day, where it was Lawler and Dundee, hair versus hair. And when they did such a big house again, he said, fuck, he said, they're still interested in this. And that's where he went to Dundee afterwards and talked him into putting his wife Beverly's hair up. And they came back the next week to another big house and shaved her head. The tape of that does not exist. I wonder why. Because they really shaved her fucking head. But the point is, if you've got people interested in something, as long as you change it up and make it different, and one side is not dominating the other, the heel gets heat, but he doesn't just kill the baby face. And the baby face, is wronged, but he just didn't lay there like a limp fish. And you strike the balance. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Well, we see where they're going with this now. More Drew McIntyre and CM Punk.
How long does Punk have to be out, if he does have to be out, just to sell this? A week? Or does it have to be longer? Or does it have to be not even be a week? He can come back next week and attack.
Well, hold on now. Jesus Christ, Russo.
Answer everything and answer them all concisely, if you don't mind.
Depending on what the injury, or if they're going to name a specific injury, say, for example, he got vocal cord damage because he choked on these beads, or when they got kicked down his throat. And so he might be able to come back and fight, but he might speak with a whisper. You know what I'm saying? The Pillman angle from years ago. Or depending, they had a neck collar on him. So was it an injury to the neck, and the beads were an insult, and when he got smushed, it fucking busted his mouth open. Depending on the injury or what they're going to say would depend on the comeback and the method or manner or time frame. So we got to wait till next week.
Indeed we do. And that was WWE Raw on the USA Network for now.
For now.
But Jim, while WWE and USA Network will remain friends going into the future, we have a lot of friends listening to this show and a lot of friends that are used to really bad transitions. And we're going to make one right now because we're going to tell our friends about our new friends at Orgain.
Well, there you are. There you ended it. I thought it was going to be more flowery and more verbose, but you handed it right to me like a turd on a platter. But I will take up for the ball here and tell you that, folks, we do have new friends at Orgain. And I got to be honest with you, I was scoffing in my head. I was scoffing at this product because I remember sitting there at Vince McMahon's dining room table in his big mansion, trapped like a rat in a cage, writing days, 10, 12 hours long, And I would see intermittently, or in the limo, or in the production meetings, wherever we were, I would see Vince McMahon make a protein shake. And he would take some kind of powder out of something with a trowel, and he would put water in it or some other type of liquid, and he would shake it in this shaker thing, and he would drink this stuff. It looked like a mixture of mud and dirty mortar. And that is the opinion that I've always had of protein shakes. Now, Brad, of course, this was 30 years ago, but still, when you're scarred by something, Brian, as a young child, then it stays with you. But that's what I thought the protein shakes were, just black, chalky, muddy, dirty, shaky, uppy, stuffy, really? That the bodybuilders and the body freaks drank because they can choke down anything, squirrel vomit, if it'll help them get those big muscles. Why didn't you ever tell me that it doesn't have to be that way?
Well, it doesn't have to be that way. They could taste good. They could actually taste really, really, really good.
Yes.
So that you want way too many because they're really good.
That's why I'm telling you that you've hidden this from, you're my connection to the modern world, Brian, and you haven't told me I had to wait until the people at Orgain sent me their protein shake. And now you want to drink so much. Can you overdose on protein?
No.
Because these things
I don't
are.
think so.
Well, by cracky, I'm going to try. Because
no, you're not going to try. You're going to try to have a respectable amount as required. As
I'm gonna tie my arm off, and I'm gonna get a vein and a syringe, and I'm gonna inject it right in there because.
No.
Boy, I'll tell you what, but this stuff is the real. It's the protein-powered nutrition that understands that being good for you doesn't have to taste bad. And Orgain was founded by Dr. Andrew Abraham. And a man with two first names that becomes a doctor has to be respected. And so this is going to give you energy to keep you going, muscle support and recovery. It helps maintain a healthy lifestyle, manage hunger, promote healthy weight management in combination with diet and exercise. 1 gram of sugar per serving. There's no soy involved in this whatsoever, and no artificial flavors or sweeteners. And you got 30 grams of protein. Or is it 30 grams of the shake?
No, it's
30-gram protein shake.
30 grams of protein, only 160 calories, and it's delicious. These things are amazing. I'm so happy with this.
And they remind me of the chocolate milkshakes that my mother used to give me in a can back in the 60s when I was a young man as a reward for taking my iron pill.
I know we have a lot of listeners that work out and you need a protein shake. A lot of them do drink protein shakes. Check this out. I'm serious. 30 grams of protein, 160 calories, and it's delicious.
And also, here's another thing. I was all prepared, and I figured out a way. It's even better and healthier because this is a chocolate milkshake, basically. That's what it tastes like. They say protein shake. It's a chocolate milkshake. Here's what you do. You get you about a quart of vanilla ice cream in a bowl and then pour one of these bad boys over the top of it.
No.
And eat that thing with a spoon. And boy, howdy, is that good.
Well, again, we're focusing on the nutritious side of things today. And while that may taste good because these are indeed delicious shakes, this chocolate fudge 30-gram protein shake, but let's not talk about mixing it with the most fattening thing you have.
Well, no, because see, then you're even healthier because the ice cream, the vanilla ice cream, the vanilla bean is a natural plant, so there's organicness, and the milk from a cow comes straight from the udder, and they just put it in the freezer, so you're drinking God's creatures fucking.
I have no idea what the hell you're talking about, but let's just end this, and let's end this concisely by letting the people know. If you work out, if you need a healthy alternative to other snacks, something that will cause your stomach to feel full, a delicious, nutritious protein shake filled with chocolate and, of course, 30 grams of protein, I must say I endorse this. I've been using it. I like it. You even like it. That's scary, but that's Orgain. How can the listeners get it? Jim.
I thought you said concisely. Well, right now, all you got to do is listen to me. The 30-gram protein shakes from Orgain are available at Costco and at Orgain.com, Orgain. Orgain, like lose or gain. Well, you're going to gain. You're not going to lose. If you want to get in on this delicious protein-packed nutrition, head to Orgain.com/JCE and use the code JCE for 20% off your order. So again, you can go to Costco, you can go to Orgain.com. If you're a lazy fat fuck and you don't take care of yourself, you need to be working out and drinking these things anyway. Get some protein in your flabby, cholesterol-ridden ass. So if you ain't going to walk out to Costco, just have it delivered to you. Orgain.com/JCE. And the code JCE will get you 20% off.
That's right. The code JCE with Orgain. Check them out today. Let us know what
Why
you
are
think.
you screaming?
Because we're moving quick. This is a fun, fast-paced, action-packed show. You never know what's going to happen.
Quick but not loud. Orgain.
Orgain. Do you remember? Did you ever hear those Larry King commercials years ago? Those Larry King's commercials years ago for garlic.
Yes, I remember garlic. I remember that. It
had the worst tagline ever. Garlic, as in unique. What?
Well, it didn't help him very much either because he didn't last long after that, did he? And was that what was making him look so desiccated to begin with, even before he passed into the other world?
I think it was only about breath, but I'm not exactly sure what it was. I just remember the tagline, garlic, as in unique, which doesn't say anything about what it does or anything.
You know, a one-of-a-kind thing can taste like absolute horse shit or poison you to fucking death instantly.
We don't know what happened to Larry, but
Orgain won't do any of these things.
He needed some more Orgain, that Larry King. That's what I always say.
Needed a variety of organs.
All right. Well, Jim, before we move on to what you watched on Dynamite, again, not a full review, let's discuss one of the biggest stories of the week, one of the biggest mysteries of the week, Odyssey Jones. He was drafted to Raw 2 years in a row. You raved about him when you saw him in NXT, and then he vanished. He recently reappeared maybe 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I think.
Yeah.
Put him with the New Day. They're teasing Xavier Woods' turn. Next thing we hear, he's off the roster page on the website. And now word has come out that apparently he has been fired or released due to a domestic violence incident. And I'm not even sure when it happened, but they just found out about it.
Well, but I have a lot of questions. This is another one of those things where I have a lot of questions about because there was no place reported that there was any police report or arrest record or whatever currently right now going on. Everybody said that nobody could find a police report or an arrest warrant or anything of that nature of a recent happening. Is that what you read?
I have not seen anything about a report or anything. The only thing I saw was someone sent me, CornyDriveThru@gmail.com, a bunch of tweets, I guess, from someone over the summer accusing him of being abusive to them. And like the Twitter account was something like, you know, Odyssey Jones won't be forgiven, or we'll let the truth know.
Yes, that's it.
Something like that.
I saw the same thing on Twitter. Somebody had a screenshot of just a moving video of these constant tweets going, Odyssey Jones, you know, must burn at the stake, or whatever the account was, over and over, that he assaulted someone. It was worded as if it was someone else, whatever, on vacation at some such and such time.
He's been on vacation for 2 years.
Well, but the point is, you know, it would seem to be hard for someone as rigorous as they have been in the past about doing the background checks, doing the medical, doing all that stuff. I've talked to numerous guys who've had to go through paperwork and hoops and everything, that they would have missed something if there was any criminal action taken or any, you know, law enforcement involvement or anything legitimate that had been reported. And would you suddenly just take somebody's word for it if an incident happened months or years ago enough to immediately scrub the guy in the middle of a fucking, I mean, just boom, he's gone. So how did they receive information on whatever he may or may not have done that made them decide to just say, fuck you, get out of here right now? But yet there's no evidence that any crime was reported or committed or etc. Do you see where I'm going with this?
Well, again, we don't know what evidence there is or isn't, but we haven't seen anything public. The other thing is,
well, that's what I'm not saying we know the evidence. I'm just saying if you could say he was arrested for this, or there's the mugshot, or here's the 911 call, usually in a situation like that, boom, you're gone. But if somebody doesn't produce those things, it's not like instantly, unless they have not been made public. That's why I say I have questions.
But again, we don't know what his relationship is with the office, and we don't know if there's been anything else in the past that has caused them, maybe even if not domestic violence, just to wonder about someone's character. Like if there's one more thing, that's a problem. We don't know.
That's why I was wondering, why do we see him for 2 fucking years? Is there something wrong with this? That was when we first resurfaced. I said I thought there was something wrong with this fucking guy at this point, that we hadn't seen him. So, and apparently we're not going to see him again. He's gone on an Odyssey, Brian.
Well, again, various reports that they have no plans for him. Brian Alvarez flat out said he has been released. So that's the last report. And
Alvarez has his nose in everybody's business. So,
it's not exactly the same, and I'm not comparing it or comparing the people, but, the Velveteen Dream, when he got let go, and there were a whole bunch of things, and it was involving children or someone underage. I don't know exactly.
Well, hold on now. Let's not.
Someone underage.
Well, yes, it was like a teenager of 15, 16, but we're not talking about some fucking 6-year-old toddler. Let's not do that to the poor fella.
No, and I'm not
He's
saying
already
that.
Apologized many times. Well, you said children.
And then I corrected myself and said someone underage. But that was another story too, right? Where the accusations broke online on like Twitter, where someone just created an account and started saying stuff.
As I recall, and again, I didn't study him to write a book on him or anything, but as I recall, that was, but then there were numbers of incidents that kind of started snowballing around that same time with him and just his general demeanor at the point.
At this point in 2024, what does it do to your career if WWE cuts bait with you like this?
Well, it gives Tony Khan a chance to fucking snatch somebody away. I mean, here the problem is poor Odyssey Jones is the size of 3 of any of Tony's rest of his roster practically. So if he wants to be a wrestler at this point, it may be, go to the indies and work hard as others have done and, hope for another chance or reinvent yourself or whatever. But I don't believe he's a spring chicken, is he? Because he played football or whatever.
I don't have his age here, but...
Well, why not? God damn it. You're supposed to keep track. Don't you have that age list I sent you?
30 years old. 30 years old. 30 years old. All
righty, but he's also 400 pounds. So you got to think that ages your joints a little bit more.
According to Wikipedia, 6'5", 309.
Well, 6'5" and 309 is going to have to hit the goddamn indies.
Jim, speaking of the indies, let's talk about some of AEW Dynamite again. Thankfully, you didn't watch the whole thing, and there wasn't too much to watch. They're getting into a phase now where there's long matches with people you don't care about, and then there's long multi-man matches with multiple people you don't care about every episode.
Just to break up the monotony, right? Instead of having these single matches you don't care about, they're going to give you multiple man matches you don't care about. I have problems with a number of these things, and they started the show, and I know, again, this is the classic definition of, for the kind of people that like that kind of thing, that's the kind of thing those people are going to like. When the WWE is giving us mega stars that are in major motion pictures and sitcoms, and AEW starts a show with the entrance of Danny Garcia, you're fucked already. And he goes to the ring and calls out MJF. I'm not waiting. It sounds like Candido and Tammy, that same, I'm sweating. The same accent. Is he from New Jersey or what the fuck's?
I believe he's from Buffalo, New York.
Well, and he spent some time in New Jersey. And then they do this constantly. So MJF is in the stands in a spotlight with security, and he's drinking wine, and he's protected up there. And just random observations, folks. It's so sad that MJF is having to try to get these not ready for primetime players over. But at the same point, this is not working for MJF either, because it's the same kind of shit most weeks with people that we really don't give a fuck about, except for the dwindling number of people that are in the arena watching it. And I don't know what they dwindled down to. And while I'm rambling, try to figure out what town they were in, because I don't know if they had enough people in the building to do a wide shot when they were doing cover pitches where the announcers would throw to something. They were shooting the ceiling again. And this is not productive for they're the guy that's dwindling, hanging by a thread of being their top star, MJF. And they're tearing each other down. And yes, he's verbally bullying Garcia like he does everybody. But Garcia is talking about MJF's acne, being covered by makeup, and his hair transplant in Turkey. And then he talks about the worst thing, his fake love for AEW.
Yeah, that's the worst thing.
That's the worst thing, other than this fucking devilish heel has ever done, is he doesn't really love the company that we all work for, because we're all worker bees. But you can ruin the illusion with a shoot, as well as you can sell tickets and create heat with a shoot. And you can have a personal issue with somebody without exposing to the fans things that they might not particularly think about or even know about, but that will ruin the illusion of the other intended party, which I've found out early in Mid-South. You couldn't. The one thing we couldn't say about Mr. Wrestling 2 was that he was old, because guess what? He was fucking old. But he was still a salty old bastard, and he'd take it out on the boys in the ring, but it would diminish his aura. Because with the mask, he was kind of timeless. So we could say he was a criminal that had to hide his identity. Or we could make fun of his fucking knee lift, or his goofy fucking gyrations in the ring, or his gruff demeanor. But we couldn't say, but also he's almost fucking 60 and he's bald as a cue ball. So anyway, MJF had to listen to this whole goddamn thing while Garcia told the long story about MJF is going to feel a tingle when he picks up his future baby. He had him married off and had a baby, and when you pick up your future baby, you're going to feel a tingle, and you're going to have to tell this fictitious baby that Danny Garcia ended your career. And I read it was like, it's again, there's MJF up there with the security guard standing by in the spotlight, and there's Garcia in the ring. It's like theater in the round meets a college debate class. It just slowed everything goddamn down.
MJF had the perfect reaction. That reaction was the best part of this whole thing.
Well, y'all, okay, give him a hand. Danny, learn to speak.
MJF just standing up silently and clapping his hands was one of the funniest things I've seen in a while.
But then he has to goddamn do his shit, so he let the fans, he paused to look at the fans who were getting on him one time long enough, they started chanting, "Shut the fuck up," and they don't even try to bleep it on this porn channel that they're on. What a goddamn bunch of degenerates. Well, they allowed the word fuck on this program on national cable for 6 times. They're a bunch of filthy-mouthed people. Where's the Parents Resource Council? Where's Tipper Gore? Is she still able to be tipped over and sent out?
I don't think Tipper's been on the front lines of that battle in many, many years.
I bet you Al hadn't been on the front lines of Tipper in many years.
She was scared of Frank Zappa. Imagine what she'll think of Tony Khan.
Oh my! Well, and she'll think, actually, didn't Frank Zappa have a son that looks somewhat like Tony Khan?
Dweezil?
Dweezil was his name, and Dweezil was his name. Oh. All right, so MJF is going to do his thing here. And finally, he tells Danny that when he breaks his neck, and that, again, it's almost like a Moxley thing. Where now MJF, everybody knows, especially this audience, knows that you're not really going to paralyze this guy for life. You're not going to break his neck and drink his blood. But then when he breaks Danny Garcia's neck, his mother will take care of Danny like she's taken care of all the other men on their backs in her bed in her day. And just...
By the way, your mother's a whore.
And she is gratified with so many of them. And so Danny bails out and starts running up there. And here the security comes, and Garcia's throwing those awful tater punches that I talked about last week, where he can't throw a punch and hit anybody's proper target with his fist, but he'll hit him in the face with some elbow, forearm, missive, whatever. And then he fights his way up to the box. And MJF, as soon as he charges MJF breaks the wine bottle over his head. Boom! And down he goes. And that's, okay, that looked pretty good, right? Shit, we've done something here. Maybe MJF could have even looked like shocked, like it was a reflex. Like Junkyard Dog didn't mean the hair cream. Or not but Freebirds didn't mean the hair cream.
Yeah.
Didn't mean the hair cream in Junkyard Dog's eyes. It was an accident. But instead, he takes a sip of wine. He straightens his jacket, brushes himself off. He goes and sits Danny up, and Danny's got a little pap smear of juice to him.
That was a good little amount. I wouldn't call that a pap smear, would you?
Well, it dripped down right below his eyes, for fuck's sake. If you're going to get hit over the head with a bottle, like to use to the bone for the business, kid. But anyway, this is the worst. It is the fakest part that Garcia's got to act like he's knocked out, and MJF cradles his head and squats down next to him. So, do you mind if I sit next to you? And cuts a dramatic whispering promo to him about all the horrible things he's going to do to him. And nobody's trying to stop it. All the security has disappeared. And again, like I said about on the WWE, where Priest disappeared and Uso disappeared after they had done offensive shit, right? One of the security guards, right before the bottle shot, all fucking Garcia did was shove him out of the way. What did he do? Fall in a goddamn crevice and be trapped like the little Timmy's down the well? Lassie, get help. Little Timmy's in the well. And everybody, the crowd is silent listening to this and the spotlight is on it. It looked like a goddamn stage play. And MJF doesn't need to do fake shit. Do you see what my problem was with this thing that went so long?
Yeah, I wasn't crazy about the ending too, and MJF kissing him and then just playing with the blood on his mouth or whatever the fuck was happening there, but I think there are elements of what MJF did that I like, but I've said it before, MJF being used to elevate these guys that should not be elevated right now is ridiculous, and it keeps happening. Feels like a couple of years of this. I mean, even the stuff with the 4 pillars, which didn't really work right, didn't really take off or click correctly, because he was the only one who could do a promo. It's just he keeps being used to elevate guys. He's better, like you said, interacting with other main event people, but there aren't any main event people. That's the problem.
Jerry, there are no people.
Ospreay's a main event person, and he's already dealing with other people and working on other things. Moxley's got his own...
How the fuck didn't we get a rematch on that shit, a la Drew and Punk? Because for fuck's sake, at least it was interesting.
Well, you asked before, Jim, about the attendance.
Oh, well, and hold on a second. I'll let me bring one more thing up, and then we can talk about the attendance, because this is still this segment. As soon as MJF is done with this dramatic rendition, did you hear Sockface's pitch from the broadcast desk?
Oh, I don't remember that specific one, but he had a really rough night. There were points where he couldn't figure out what words to say and he got flustered.
Oh, well, that's normal.
And then Shivani would jump in with nothing. Just, oh, that's a great call. I'm digging this. This is great. Nothing. He says nothing. Bubblehead.
Bubblehead, you bubble-headed booby.
But what did he say?
Well, the point is the pitch. Now, examine what has happened from a broader standpoint. Daniel Garcia, one of the wrestlers, has called out one of the other wrestlers, MJF. MJF's in the stands. They've had words back and forth. It's led to a fight where at least 5 to 7 security guards have apparently been paralyzed or rendered in some type of coma. And then a bottle got broken over Daniel Garcia's head. And MJF was drinking his blood and nobody was able to stop it. And then Sockface says, well, we're going to get medical attention for Daniel Garcia, but right now to backstage, and our colleague, Renee Moxley Good, who was smiling, thanks, guys, with 4 baby faces who were all, Willow was there smiling, and Briscoe was there smiling, and Kyle O'Reilly was there making funny, goofy faces, because why not? His career is over anyway, poor fella. And Ospreay came in smiling. Even if they pre-taped it at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they had to know where they were putting in the show. They acted like, well, yeah, fucking Garcia may have brain damage and he's bleeding like a stuck hog, but we got to get this fucking interview in. Otherwise, we're in a good fucking mood.
Not even just any interview, but, Garcia may be dead, but Renee Moxley Good is talking to the comedy troupe. Let's go to them.
Yes.
It's always poorly formatted. They never do the right thing. Never, ever, ever. And these segments are awful. The promo, backstage promo segments specifically. Jim, AEW Dynamite was in Milwaukee at the Milwaukee Panther Arena. As of yesterday, what time was this? As of 4:30 p.m. yesterday, so 2 hours before the doors opened, according to WrestleTix, 2,448 tickets distributed. The previous time they were there, for Dynamite in April of 2023, 3,273 tickets distributed.
Well, that ain't nothing to write home about, but they were down 1,000, but that's distributed. And as we found out, and we may talk about it separately in more detail, but Wembley Stadium, Tony said over 50,000 sold. WrestleTix or whoever reported 53,000 distributed. The turnstile count apparently was 46,000. So again, you could take 10% as an average off of these tickets distributed number to get the number of people in the building. And what did this...
And by the way, that doesn't explain how Tony said there were over 50,000 sold.
Well, because, see, that's to a Mark who is not even used to using the terminology. He might, we've sold over 50,000 tickets because he heard, we got 50,000 tickets out. And he doesn't bother to get the breakdown. He just...
Hey, you want to hear something just as scary? Next week, they're at the Rupp Arena again.
Oh, boy.
Lexington, Kentucky, Wednesday, September 11th. As of now, 2,305 tickets distributed. The current setup is 3,301. The last time they were there, last August, for Collision, 3,228 tickets sold. They're underperforming everywhere they go. Do you think they're going to get less than 3,228?
Well, I mean, again...
They would need to sell 900 tickets in a week.
No, they would need to distribute.
Distribute, that's right.
900 tickets. So they can call Ticketmaster or call the building and say, print 500 tickets and send them over to such radio station. And so they may have that number may be over 3,000, but it won't be paid. And again, Rupp Arena in Lexington, right now they have 2,305 tickets out. And the capacity of the building, if it was full to the brim, 23,000. So they could almost do this in a fucking shipping container, is sitting on the floor of Rupp Arena. But what I was, where I was going with that was just that they had 2,000 people. What is this joint, this ballroom, this expo hall, this arena in
Milwaukee Panther Arena? I'll get you the attendance or capacity in a moment.
Capacity in a moment. We'll pass by O'Cody and Felcher. Had a match that by the time they went to the ring, had the match, finished the match, and Take a Shit reappeared and chased off O'Cody. 23 minutes long.
Capacity is 12,700, although that may be for hockey.
Yeah, boy. Alrighty, so around 20% of a house. That's better than they'll do in Lexington. Okay, what? Again, I've got to bring to mind that maybe the plumber needs to go back for one of his cures. Is he on something? Does he see something else that we don't see? Does he see something that nobody else understands?
I'm not on dope. I'm just dope.
Dope is a word I would use. Yeah. As in the stork that brought him was arrested for carrying dope.
Hey, how'd you hear about that?
I got the arrest record of the stork. And the body cam footage. Should have seen when they pulled him over.
Can anyone be a successful badass character in green pants?
Well, and also, what if nobody even understands what the fuck he's doing and what she's doing? Marina Schaefer, we don't know what she's doing. She beats up 4 random guys as they're walking through the back of the arena.
We've seen more women beat up male security guards on AEW in the last 2 months than ever in wrestling history.
You know what? After she beat up the first 3, the other guy should just pick up a pipe and just baseball bat her in the fucking face. Make her look like she'd been chasing parked cars. Why wouldn't you?
Why doesn't anyone go for a double leg?
No, nothing. They just they go.
They bend over.
Oh my God! Yeah. Please don't kick me in the balls. Oof.
That'd be great. One day, one of the security guards gets overzealous and just clotheslines the shit out of her, and then they fire him on the air.
But they walk up, and there's the douchebag twins and Jungle Jackoff standing in the back in their, fine suits. And now, the last we saw Moxley, he was allegedly a babyface. The people cheered for him, and he did nothing to discourage this, even though his wrestling was all over the page. But now he looks at them, and he tells Jungle Jack, hey, I don't care what they say. You're a sweet kid. And this girl he's with is beating up innocent people at random for no reason. And so then, when they walk into the arena, tell me that they didn't benefit from Wild Thing, because listen to this lack of response with this generic. What is it? What kind of music is this generic music?
Crapola, I guess some people may say. But, it's interesting how many AEW stars have music with built-in crowd noise. Every time Ospreay comes out, they're like, man, the house sounds good tonight. And then I'm like, no, that isn't them, because as soon as the music went off, so did they. And Moxley with Wild Thing, that's a loud song that gets people going. Judas, same thing. You just brought it up the other day about Judas. When Jericho came out singing that other shitty song at Wembley, it wasn't even that no one moved. No one wanted to hear it. It was terrible.
Well, Moxley's whole thing when he does the promo is he wonders where Darby Allin is. And in this bizarre manner that Moxley has, he put Darby over verbally and, but he wants to talk to Darby. And don't make me apply pressure. I'm not an impatient man. I just want to talk. And then he throws the microphone down and he walks out and she walks out and they walk out. And the people are like, what the fuck? And the announcers are actually saying how confusing this is. And this is a new attitude from Moxley, but this is confused. We don't know what he's talking about. And of course, they're keeping up the angle. But the thing is it good to have an angle where somebody is just confusing you and you don't know what he's fucking talking about? And you're admitting this.
No, so far this is not very good, and it seems to be trying to elevate Marina Shafir. Not that anyone has really wanted that.
I think the people that want to do that are elevated themselves, or at least very high.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, real quick. I'm looking at the upcoming events. September 21st, 2024, Collision and Rampage. The Mass Mutual Center, Springfield, Massachusetts. 1,668 tickets distributed. The show's in 16 days.
Ooh.
Now, it's a smaller building. It's an 8,000 capacity building, apparently.
Well, they're not to 25% of it yet, though.
Yeah, no. The current setup, it's set up for 2,783, but 1,668 distributed. That's brutal.
All right, well, speaking of brutal, let's make a mention of Mercedes Mone murdering another segment, along with poor Camille, who is joined at the hip to her now. But this is where, I mean, there was no reaction for this. She's not over. She's a fake bad actress. She was talking about Sheeta. The fans chanted, "Holy Sheeta." And Sheeta did a promo on a screen wearing a suit and tie over her own shirt. And then Daniels came in and barred Camille from the match at the pay-per-view.
Daniel sucks in this role. I'm sorry.
They ain't doing much.
He does not work in this role at all.
He was more shocked at the shirt than anybody. But this was the segment where, as soon as Mercedes is coming to the ring, I guess maybe the director thought, well, we'll try to neutralize some of Mercedes's naysayers, because some smartass in the crowd had a sign that said Cornette is irrelevant. So they zoomed in on the sign that said Cornette is irrelevant, and got a close-up of the guy standing behind him in the next row had a Cornette face t-shirt on. So I wonder, the fight that may have happened if that guy ever turned around backwards was probably more exciting than anything that happened on this show.
That is funny. I mean, the irony of that guy standing there with the sign and there's a fan right behind him with the shirt. The sign looked like shit, too. That was the most offensive part.
Well, yeah, it was just some homemade thing a guy did in the toilet or something with like a Sharpie.
Yeah, it was the worst looking sign I've seen on AEW TV, and they made sure to get a nice shot of it. And it backfired because all you did was trend the same night we put up the omnibus, coincidentally enough, about Jim Cornette trending.
Well, and that's the thing I trend for the most ridiculous things, and we do an omnibus about all the ridiculous things that have made me trend. And then the same day that it's released, I trend not only for this incident, but also because my attorney makes news again. And Cornette's lawyer, he's gonna fucking get AEW and then blah, blah, blah. So I don't even have to goddamn do anything. It's the existence of and the magnitude of me at this point.
How does it feel to be irrelevant? What's an irrelevant day like? What do you do when you wake up? And are you upset when relevance strikes?
Well, it hits me every day. It's like a heaviness. I wake up in the morning, I look up, and it's like a heaviness, and I say, "Hi, heaviness." It's Rodney Dangerfield, by the way. But no, once I feel the various offers for movies and motion pictures and sitcoms, and then I sit down to my Orgain protein shake for breakfast before I rub Harley Quinn's tummy, I just sit here and bask in the relevance of me. Anyway, speaking of irrelevance, they put Will Ospreay and the fucking company mascot on the same team in a 6-man tag. Pockets, O'Reilly, and Ospreay against Claudio, Useless, and Pac. And Brian, from the time they started going to the ring to the time that they finished this match and did an angle afterwards and then an interview about the angle, it was 30 fucking minutes. 30 fucking minutes with these multiple goofs mixed in with one of their new top guys for no reason. Oh, they made up a reason, but there's no reason for this booking malpractice. And then Danielson goes in the ring and raises the hands of the, Claudio and Useless were still there. Pac and Osprey had gone somewhere else. And then the Buckaroos and Jungle Jack and O'Cody jumped them and got heat on them. And the babyfaces came back and cleared the ring out. And then they cut promos at each other with the fans chanting, "You fucked up, you fucked up." And there was a challenge for the pay-per-view this weekend. And then Danielson said, "And you're going to get your fucking head kicked in." And they bleeped that. And then they went to the back and Pac suplexed Osprey on equipment cables. Or cases, rather, not cables. What?
Well, that was certainly a segment on a show with segments, but there was one big one that a lot of people were talking about coming out of this. It was all on the overrun, so I hope you caught it. But before I even ask you, did you see any of the tweets earlier in the day from Swerve Strickland?
Well, no, but fortunately they had played the video. Did you skip over the video earlier? Because they played it.
Oh, I didn't know. Did they play it on Dynamite?
Yes, they played it in the program. Well, we skipped over that too because I was going to tie it into this segment that we're talking about to make it more concise and more easily digestible for the audience, Brian. Earlier in the show, they had played a video of Swerve all humble and babyface with Nana, his manager, standing in front of the house that he grew up in, his childhood home, and had pictures of him in the home. I'd like to see some pictures of Swerve in a home, but no.
Come on.
He had the pictures and he basically, with his new AEW contract, he's finally achieved his lifelong dream. He's been able to purchase the house that he grew up in. It was a modest house, and I'm sure it held many wonderful memories, and they're standing in front of it. And you get a real good look at it. And you know, that's a happy thing that happened, and he wasn't too over the top with it, but that's what happened, right? So then, as you said, 10 o'clock, the regulation program is already over with, and if you didn't DVR, but fortunately, I've enjoyed the antics of the Dunphy family on Modern Family, so I've been recording that, and I was able to see this part of the wrestling program. They're doing a contract signing with Swerve and Paige, and Swerve comes out and sits down at the table, and they play Paige's music, and he doesn't come out. And it's awkward, and then they say, well, I think Shivani, we'll try this again. Hangman Adam Page, and they play his music again. And again, no pay. And the thing, they've established the gorilla position is right behind the curtain. Wouldn't they know if the motherfucker was not there? Especially if he wasn't in the building and nobody had seen him. I've worked in the television production of these things. You don't intro a son of a bitch unless he's standing at gorilla. So, but leaving them to this loophole. All of a sudden, Page pops up on the screen. And he's going in the front door of Swerve's childhood home. And he proceeds to do what I can only describe as an audition for a low-budget horror movie that he would be the star of, maybe if some of his friends pitched in. You know, like the do-it-yourself videos that became popular in the early 90s.
The Blair Elite Project.
There you go, or maybe the Blair Bitch Project. And he's talking, he said Swerve's father didn't love him. Probably told him to shut up so he could hear the TV. He was a mistake. They didn't mean to have him. I tell you, the parents are suffering on this program tonight. The mothers are whores and the fathers are drunken fucking cretins. And he breaks a window as he's, walking through, and then he goes outside on the porch and he gets the can of gasoline again. I'm telling you, if we could do an investigation of the unsolved arsonists or arsonies, the various arson offenses, I bet you some of these people are responsible. They've got a goddamn fetish with this stuff.
Tony Khan has funded more arson than maybe anyone in American history.
BP oil has not fucking spilled as much gasoline out in public as. So anyway, he pours gasoline on the porch and he walks out and he sits in an overstuffed easy chair out in the yard with the house in back of him.
By the way, was that chair in the house and he brought it out there for this, or did he bring the chair with him?
Well, this is kind of like one of those questions, kind of like the Louisville pooper that we talked about on the last show. And by the way, he's still on the loose.
No, is he?
He's still on the loose, but they've increased police patrolling in the area, and the homeowner has got police tape that he's put around his front porch, so he hoped that they won't. But yeah, I think the guy's artificially doing it also because it looks runny. I think he's shoving chocolate pudding up his ass and then squatting down and being able to just shit instantly. Because it doesn't look real. It looks runny. But the homeowner did say that it was poop, so maybe he's giving himself some kind of enema right before he comes up on the porch, because it's just instantly. You see from the video.
I don't know. But maybe Adam Page could have just done that. Just taking a shit on his porch and left.
We weren't going to sub-reference anymore. But anyway, the overstuffed easy chair that is somehow it's not a yard chair. It's a house chair. He's sitting in it, the house in back of him. He cuts another long, dramatic promo while Swerve is having to stand in the ring and emote. And oh my gosh, what can I do? What can I do? And then Page lights the gasoline and the flame goes in a trail behind him like in the movies, because this was a special effect. And it goes up the porch, and then suddenly the whole house just blows up like he lit the goddamn ammo dump at F Troop. And the problem is with all of this, when they pull back and he's in the yard, it's not the same fucking house. It had a railing across the porch. There was no railing on the other house. People were putting the pictures up on Twitter. Now, are they trying to say, was he out in the backyard? Did he put some type of goddamn plastic explosive in the rooms also to create this? It's fucking phony.
See, that'd be the best story ever if all of a sudden next week they come out, he burned the wrong house. There's some family that he's
But then why was Swerve looking at it going, oh, it's my fucking house? He should have been standing there going, you dipshit, you went to the wrong house.
By the way, if Swerve lived in Washington, in Seattle, or somewhere in that area, and it's 3 hours behind what it was on the East Coast, and it was 10 o'clock.
Why was it dark?
Why was it so dark?
Because they shot it in Virginia. Where else are you going to find a shitty house like that fucking burned at a moment's notice? And besides that, when they called the fire department and the fire department answered, the guy said, my house is on fire. And he said, whose house? And they said, Swerve's house. So now this guy has burned down, even in the worst of neighborhoods. You know, if you burn down a house, that's approaching a six-figure loss these days, and significantly more in most places.
In Washington State, it's expensive to have a house, yeah.
Well, I mean, but let's take it, just get a look at the house. I mean, come on. I mean, I'm surprised that with a tornado that came through last week in that neighborhood, it did $3 million worth of improvements. But still. So they burned the man's house down now. Burning down the house. Hey! Fake show. And I'm glad it's over.
So
fake show.
Last week on the fake show, Swerve was clearly the heel, antagonizing Adam Page.
Yes.
Adam Page finally dressed him that, and then Swerve just came right back at him. I've seen your wife. Made it real personal. Adam Page left. Who's the babyface? Who is the babyface?
I don't know if I'm rooting for either one of them. Because if you know, when Page can say, well, I burned your childhood home down, but you terrorized my baby. Remember when he broke in Paige's house and terrorized the baby, the unseen baby in the crib?
That's right. The unseen people in this house, we have no idea what was happening in this. Adam Page just lit a house. Again, the funny thing would be if they kept the camera rolling and some guy ran up, "That's my house! What have you done to my house?"
Either that or they should have got the special effects guy to do the thing they did with old Jungle Jack off on the pay-per-view and have a guy run out on fire. Oh, shit. Oh, goddamn.
This is not Swerve's house. Swerve's house is that one, and there's like an inflatable knot.
I don't even if it was Swerve's house, it could have been Swerve's uncle. Uncle Swerve. And he could have fucking run out. Oh, goddamn it.
So, again, they have the pay-per-view in a few days. We're not even doing a preview clip because there isn't enough time. The pay-per-view's right around the corner.
Well, yeah, and they're announcing main events as we speak.
As we speak, so we don't even know what'll happen. But they do this to heat up, quite literally, this feud going into this pay-per-view. Again, this is during the overrun. Dave Meltzer says he studies it and it goes up and it goes down. We've been, it seems like every single week, talking about it being a big loss for everything with Danielson and Swerve. We'll see what happens with this. What do you think is, is this a moment that will propel interest? Is this a moment that's akin to jumping the shark or literally lighting the house on fire?
Yeah, I was thinking Shark Week. Because even the most devoted fans have to laugh at this, don't they? That they've gone this far and trying to make people believe this shit, and they can't even make the house look the same?
See, that's the thing. At least if it was the same house, you could just focus on, okay, they took it really far with this, and there's no cops or fire department or anyone. No one's screaming. No one's saying, "What's going on?" Nothing. This house is in the middle of nowhere.
They're in Wartburg, Tennessee.
You can look past all of that, but,
But the sports-based presentation, banger after banger after banger. Oh, and occasionally, it burned down somebody's house. Now, if they'd have done like they did in the old days, remember when the guys wanted to heat up an angle, they'd go out and they'd get in a fight in public and get arrested? Now, if he had burned the house down without permission and somebody called the cops and he'd been arrested for it, it made the news. Now that would have heated the goddamn thing up.
See, this never would have worked ever, because even though wrestlers hated each other and there were feuds, as we saw with Eddie Gilbert running over Jerry Lawler, if something like this happened, the police would be like, "Hey, wait a minute. If this ain't real, you better say it now."
Yeah.
Because we're getting calls.
Well,
burned a fucking house down.
Nobody called the police on this, by the way. Yeah, that's why Lawler killed the angle. He had to go out and apologize. Not apologize, but just go out and acknowledge that he was still alive and go out and vow revenge on Eddie Gilbert after he'd been run over because people were convinced he'd been murdered and they were calling the cops and wouldn't stop. But, yeah.
We'll stop unless you have more to say about Adam Page, the arsonist.
What do you think the odds are that next week old Swerve comes back and shoots Hangnail's horse?
It's AEW, it's Tony Khan, it's not crazy, the idea they would kill a horse on TV. But I would take the under.
You want to be under the horse?
No.
I'd rather be on top of that.
In terms of what I could do over at the wonderful DraftKings app. Sportsbook app.
Yes. The over and the under on they do horses. I'm pretty sure they do horse racing. But right now, you know what they're doing? The National By-Gum Football League is what they're doing over at the DraftKings Sportsbook. If you download the app right now, wherever you get your favorite apps, you will know that, and you will know that it's easy for beginners to do this, Brian. Now, it may be complicated in people's mind if they haven't wagered on the football before. They may say, "Well, I'm in over my head. I'm not an expert. I can't do this." Anybody can step up and place their bets, ladies and gentlemen, because you can even do simple stuff like picking a player to score a touchdown. And you bet this player that you like that has a history of doing these type of things, he's going to score a touchdown in this game. And if he does, boom, you win. I got a loophole here for you, pal. You want to know what it is?
Yeah.
I figured this out. If you bet individually, how many people's on a football team? Is it 11 or 12?
I don't know.
You don't know. You're a sports fan. How do you not know how many people's on a goddamn football team?
Because I don't watch football.
Well, you're ruining my whole flow here because I thought that you would instantly.
11 players.
11. See, I knew it was either 11 or 12. They didn't want to have the even dozen. Well, if you just bet on each one of those 11 players is going to score a touchdown, well, then one of them's bound to, so you're going to win. See how that works? I got the whole thing covered.
Who's the best football player to transition to a wrestler, in your eyes, ever?
Wahoo McDaniel, Ernie Ladd, Bronco Nagurski for his time period, but that's apples and oranges. And then, since you just sprung that on me, several more that I'm probably not thinking about, but it'd be hard to top Wahoo and Ernie, wouldn't it? And then, the ever popular fucking Otis Sistrunk. That worked out for everybody in Georgia.
It's hard to top Wahoo and Ernie because they were actually really good players who ended up being
really good wrestlers.
Really good wrestlers. There were sometimes, good players who don't become good wrestlers or shitty players that became wrestlers because they had nothing else to do. But back to DraftKings.
Yes, well, the odds, as I said, you bet on each one of those son of a bitches, and one of them's got to score a touchdown. But you say, now, what if they don't score a touchdown? What if the other team scores touchdowns? Then bet on all 11 of them, too. And that way, certainly, somebody's going to score it. Well, I guess unless it's a scoreless game. Well, but you're going to significantly increase your odds that way. But I'm going to work out the kinks in this theory. But anyway, what you do is you download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code JCE. And if you're a new customer, when you bet $5, you're going to get $250 in bonus bets and 1 month of NFL Plus Premium, where they do all the premium things that you normally have to pay for, but it is gratis to you, which means you pay nothing. Brian, what's that normally?
Gratis? Nothing.
No, I mean, the charge on it, the NFL Plus. That's got to be it's a pretty penny.
It's a premium charge, that's for sure.
It's a premium charge. Well, not to you, as long as you bet $5, $250 in bonus bets, and 1 month of NFL Plus Premium only, because only on, premium, exclamation point, yes. Only on DraftKings.
You're doing a great job, Excalibur. Keep going.
Yes. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours if you want it, but just bet on some of these simple things, and you can get the lines and the odds and the evens and all that stuff on the DraftKings Sportsbook app also that all the people use out in Vegas and over in Monaco and and Caesars in Indiana, all the places that have the big major gambling centers. And Atlantic City and Wildwood.
And again, with DraftKings, you don't have to think about any of those. You could just sit at home and pick up your phone.
Well, yeah, because they got all the information that all the important people use around the world.
That's right. They also have something they want us to share, information they want us to share with all the listeners.
Didn't we hire a new voiceover guy? We're going to give him the easy stuff to start out with, the light lifting.
Yeah, you see, the problem is it's kind of like a Gallagher 2 situation. This man wants to be known as Lou Kippelman 2.
I thought his name was Melvin Kimball.
Oh, well, let's go to this.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus Premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus Premium terms at nfl.com/terms.
Okay. Holy shit, he's good.
Well, they must have sped that up or something.
And Oregon and New Hampshire have jumped on the Void train also. That's not even in my copy.
That's well, once again, Jim, never ever forget, the crown is yours with DraftKings. One more time, how can the listeners get their DraftKings?
Well, I'd tell you if I hadn't already gone to the other screen, but they can go and download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code JCE. That's for the $250 in bonus bets and the 1 month of NL Plus Premium, NFL Plus Premium. I understand some of the players will come to your house and sit on the couch and watch a game with you.
I understand that isn't true at all, no.
Well, you never know. If you leave your door open on game day, they might wander in for some free beer.
Well, you never know if you leave your door open. That's true. With DraftKings, you'll always know that the crown is yours.
And then the door's always open.
With DraftKings, the crown is yours.
For you to win money.
The crown is yours.
Yes, it certainly. Well, the show is yours.
The show is mine. Jim, we're going to get to the ratings in a moment, but on the road there, because it ties to AEW Dynamite, and a lot of the listeners have been sending this in today because it has gone up on Twitter. The Meltzer said what Twitter account? A fight or...
What?
I shouldn't call it a fight. An argument or a discussion? Well, I'll hear this with you.
A spirited debate.
Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez about Shida getting a title shot against Mercedes Moné. However, she's facing Deonna Purrazzo the night before on Friday. They had a Deonna Purrazzo video on Dynamite.
Yeah, she was sitting there drinking wine, issuing a prepared dramatic reading, and it made me want to drink.
AEW should have a liquor sponsor. It would make a lot of sense. But let's go to this. It's broken up into a couple parts, but we could break it up even further as we review it from the Meltzer.
They're really this fired up over this fucking insignificant of a topic. This should be rich.
Well, let's hear what it is, actually. Let's go to this from Wrestling Observer Radio, Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer.
Then Deonna Purrazzo did a promo. Hikaru Shida is facing Deonna Purrazzo the night before she gets a championship match on pay-per-view.
Yes.
Why?
But it's not for the title shot.
I know, but it's just weird.
It's just a match, just to give her a win. You know, I mean, that's happened only a billion times in wrestling. It's not anything to get worked up over.
I don't think Cody is doing a singles match the night before WrestleMania facing Roman Reigns. I'm positive that did not happen.
Okay, but guess what? You could probably count the times that the challenger champion wrestled a match on SmackDown before a pay-per-view, or on a Friday show, or on the Go Home Raw when they didn't have Friday or whatever. It happened all the time. This is not unusual whatsoever.
I want someone to go back and check this one out.
Hundreds of times.
Good Lord.
The challenger for the world title the next day, wrestling on SmackDown.
No, on SmackDown on the Friday before the pay-per-view, wrestling in a match.
The day before.
All the time.
A singles match, the challenger for the title.
All the time.
All right. Someone's going to find this. I guarantee it.
All the time. All the time. It happened in WCW before their pay-per-views. All the time. It happened on Mid-South Wrestling.
I'm not talking about
television.
that. I'm talking of late. I want to go back to Mid-South Wrestling.
I'm talking about.
I don't want to see the Mulkeys in 2024.
I'm talking about the history
they
of
could
wrestling.
do a hell of a
This
job.
is done.
The Mulkeys could do a hell of a job in 2024.
They're as big as the Bucks.
All the time. I mean,
I was just going to say, I think now they're just grating on each other, because this is not normally something that would have been of the importance that they would bother to natter at each other about. Could it be that their long, happy marriage has been hitting the rocks and they're just on each other's last nerve?
It has seemed obvious to me in the last several things we've reviewed of them that Brian Alvarez, although I'm pretty sure he probably wouldn't agree with a lot of our judgments on the wrestlers he likes or the style of wrestling he likes or whatever it may be, I think he knows you can't deny the reality of AEW's TV and their booking and the formatting and how nothing ever makes any sense. And Dave, it seems, never gives up on arguing that
trying to figure out a way
that something AEW related does make sense. And there is some sort of logic behind it. And again, Hikaru Shida has a world title match on Saturday. Why does she have a match against someone who's relatively pushed in the women's division there the night before. Let's go back to this.
Time. I mean, this is not the slightest bit unusual.
I find this very unusual nowadays.
I have no idea why, because the idea of a challenger for a championship winning a match on the last television show before the big championship match is a cornerstone of pro wrestling.
So you're telling me that when they do that Solo Sikoa Cody Rhodes match,
I don't know.
Solo's going to wrestle Friday night? I don't think
he might not. I mean, it's not like it happens every single time.
They'll do a contract signing, or they'll do a face-to-face. He ain't having a rando match.
That's WWE this year. If you look at this year wrestling, this is like a cornerstone. You put the challenger over on television right before the pay-per-view or before the big show, before the stadium show, before that. It happens constantly.
Mercedes.
You haven't watched. It's television.
Well, let's stop it for a second. There's another little bit here. What do you think of that idea? Again, we're talking about modern wrestling. We could look at examples and things that happen historically from territories or various other companies, but we have to look at it under the prism of what's happening now. Should someone who's going to get a big match on a live national broadcast like a pay-per-view, should they be in a long competitive match the night before?
Well, there you go. And these two chuckleheads aren't really articulating either of their positions well, and they might find someplace to claw into each other in the middle, because I think it'd be perfectly acceptable if the guy going for a championship, or the girl in this case, going for a championship on the big show this weekend, the night before or the week before on TV, they beat some job guy, get a decisive win, or do an angle, as they were talking about, or a contract signing, or whatever. Having a match shouldn't be ruled out as just a goddamn absolute, but having a competitive match with another semi-pushed individual, whereas in AEW, however much time they're given, it's going to be as competitive as it can possibly be, regardless of who's being pushed. That's what's detrimental and shouldn't be going on, in my opinion. But I will leave it there so that we can hear from the experts.
Well, let me just ask you, do you see that as being different? And again, when you were doing WCW pay-per-views, if there was a TV show on TBS that same day, it was clearly taped. It wasn't a live show into the pay-per-view. And most people understood, but now they did it in the Attitude Era also, and in the Monday Night Wars when everybody knew that was live. But traditionally, up until that time, the people knew that the shows were taped to begin with, so you'd be seeing the wrestler on that show in a positive light that's going to be on the live pay-per-view tomorrow. That's why we got to pay for it, because we want to see it live. And there's a difference between beating a preliminary talent in a preliminary match the day before and having, like you said, a long competitive match.
Yeah, that might actually fucking help if they, beat some guy and look like a world beater, rather than getting waltzed across Texas by some middle card fucking guy right before you're supposed to look like you're going to be the next world champion.
Well, let's go back to this audio another little bit here.
It's television. That's exactly
I watched every single SmackDown. The challenger, not one time this year, is the challenger for the title wrestled on the Friday before SmackDown. Not one time this year.
I have no idea if that's true or not, but it doesn't matter because, it's SmackDown in 2024 is not the history of wrestling. And it's not the history of wrestling booking, and it's not necessarily the greatest booking ever. I mean, it's like I'm talking about something that this is a ridiculous.
It is. And my point is,
well, let me stop it for a moment. There's more, but it's hard for Dave to articulate this, isn't it?
Well, it's hard for Dave to articulate anymore, to be honest with you. Something happened in a short circuit between his tongue and his eye teeth, and now he can't see what he's saying. But they're just picking at nits over each other at this point because, again, who gives a shit about the girls' situation when the house is on fire, so to speak, over there?
So to speak, and literally. Let's go back to this.
I don't care, but it's like weird. Like, this is supposed to be a big match on Saturday.
It's not
Why
weird.
is she facing Deanna the night before? Deanna's supposed to be like a star.
It's not weird. It happens all that even better. That she's a star, that makes it even better. It's a bigger win. That's exactly what you do. I know when I was growing up, before the frickin' Cow Palace show on the Saturdays TV, that afternoon.
That's fine for the 70s.
Okay. It's not just the 70s. You could do it in every decade.
In the 60s.
Constantly. It is a cornerstone of wrestling that you put the challenger over on television in his run to...
run, the day before.
The day up when you had same-day TV. They did it everywhere, all the time. It was a regular occurrence because this is ridiculous.
The Bucks are backstage.
And that's the end of that.
Lord.
And ridiculous.
Again, we've talked about when the local towns had live studio TV, they'd do an angle on the Chattanooga TV that aired at 5 o'clock live from the studios to juice up the card that night at the Memorial Auditorium that started at 8 o'clock. But if a guy's going for the World Heavyweight title, he wouldn't be having a 20-minute match against somebody else. They'd be jumping somebody and hitting them with a chair. That kind of juicing it up. Oh, poor Dave and Brian. I hate it when, maybe a marriage counselor.
See, the problem is Alvarez is looking for logic, and Dave's trying to explain away the logic. Alvarez was just saying here, it doesn't make any sense that they'd be doing this, and Dave won't even listen to that. That's kind of what Tony Khan's like. He convinces himself of what the answer is, and then we see what happens.
Then he'll just kind of, tut. Oh, no, you just don't understand.
I study this. All right, well, it ain't the Cow Palace, but Jim, let's talk television ratings. And before we get to Dynamite, we're going to talk about the road to Dynamite rather briefly here. AEW Rampage on Friday, August 30th, 10 to 11 p.m. That's their normal time slot, I believe.
Yes, it is.
According to WrestleNomics, 218,000 viewers.
Oh.
It is the second lowest overall number in the history of Rampage, including preemptions, and the second lowest in the key demo in the history of Rampage. They followed that up the next night, AEW Collision on TNT, 8 to 10:03 p.m. Again, I think that's
normal time slot.
Yeah, I think that's the regular time slot. 289,000 viewers on average, the lowest overall number in the history of the show, excluding preemptions. Which, again, the way he uses preemption, I'm not sure if it's correct, but that's the road to Dynamite. And those are the two shows that they've been moved around a bunch, and they've been booked horribly for a very long time. What do you think of these numbers? There's always competition. There's always college football on a Saturday.
Well, yeah, they did the college football last year at this time. Right? But last year, right up until about this time, Punk was still on the Saturday night show. So they would do 500, 600,000. They did, I believe, 7 or 8 for the debut episode. And if they went against a WWE big show, they were still doing, I think we were laughing when they were doing that and doing 400,000 last fall after they lost Punk and football was going on. Well, geez, they did 400,000. Or like 380,000 for a WWE show they were up against. Now this is 507,000 viewers for 3 hours of primetime network cable television on Friday and Saturday nights total. That when you're coming up on a renewal, how the fuck do they expect these giant raises?
You have to ask yourself where the value is. Again, the value with AEW is cheap programming. If all of a sudden that cheapness is doubled, it's not as cheap anymore. But those are the Collision and Rampage, or Rampage and Collision in order, ratings. Leading into Dynamite. AEW Dynamite on September 4th, TBS, 8 to 10:07 p.m. On average, watched by 660,000 viewers.
Oh! The go-home show for the pay-per-view. I know we're running long here because we've got the other commitments, but I will try to keep my comments brief. But, oh, boy!
It is the lowest overall number and key demo number since August 7th, and the 4th lowest non-preemption Dynamite in key demo ever.
Well, where did they start and where did they finish?
Jim, quarter one, and these were compiled by WrestleNomics. Quarter one, 8 to 8:15 p.m. The Daniel Garcia MJF live angle. The Will Ospreay and Conglomeration and Willow Nightingale backstage angle. 810,000 viewers.
Oh, good Lord. Okay, this ain't gonna be pretty, is it?
We go to quarter two, 8:15 to 8:30 p.m. A very pretty match, Kazuchika Okada versus Kyle Fletcher, with picture-in-picture ads twice. 636,000 viewers.
Holy Christ! So wait, I can't do math with numbers that high. 174,000 viewers in 15 minutes?
But wait. Quarter three, 8:30 to 8:45 p.m., the continuation of Okada versus Fletcher and the post-match with Takeshita, Swerve Strickland, and Prince Nana's video.
That was where they had the house there.
You know what? I didn't see Takeshita either, so I must have left during the end of that match because I was so bored with it.
Well, you were one of the 174,000.
Yeah, no kidding. People go to the kitchen and never come back. An ad break, and Jamie Hayter versus Robin Renegade. 614,000 viewers.
So that's down 196,000 from where they started 45 minutes ago. And by the way, I understand why people go to the kitchen and don't come back with all these home invasions going on. Swerve and Paige and everybody just busting into each other's houses. Well, you go to the kitchen, you could get tied to the fucking chair.
Based on the key demo number here, it appears that young people don't even own houses. Maybe doing something else during this time because it's well below the trend line here. Quarter four, 8:45 to 9 p.m. The Roderick Strong hook backstage angle. The Moxley and Marina Shafir Jack Perry confrontation. An ad break. The Moxley live promo. And the Learning Tree Orange Cassidy angle. 651,000 viewers.
Wow, so that actually gained back 37,000 people, which shows you how bad they didn't want to see the shit that came beforehand.
Well, from there, Jim, we go to quarter five, 9 to 9:15 p.m., the big 9 o'clock hour. We can't really call it that anymore. They've killed the 9 o'clock hour. Mariah May versus Nyla Rose with picture-in-picture ads. The Deonna Purrazzo video and an ad break. 643,000 viewers.
So they lose 8,000 at the top of the hour, but at least they're not as bad off as they were in quarters 2 and 3.
Well, we go now to quarter, 6? 9:15 to 9:30 p.m. The Mercedes Moné Hikaru Shida live promo.
Oh, boy.
And the Young Bucks Jack Perry backstage promo, followed by an ad break. 597,000 viewers.
Ooh.
That is the low for the show, I will tell you that. That is the low in the key demo. That is the low in the overall number. Mercedes Moné and the Young Bucks and Jack Perry.
Wow, a lot of high-priced salaries in the lowest segment of the show. Hold on, let me at 203, 213. So they are 213,000 viewers down from the start of the program, which would be over 25% of the audience that they started with.
Well, we go from there to quarter 7, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. The Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta, and Pac match against, I don't know why I said it that way, Claudio Wheeler and Pac versus Kyle O'Reilly, Orange Cassidy, and Will Ospreay. 2 times picture-in-picture. 652,000 viewers.
Good. So that's intentional that those people left for that 15 minutes, isn't it?
Mercedes Moné, followed by the Bucks. Why would you sit there? If you've been watching this show, why would you want to see more of them?
643 to 597 to 652. That's a statement.
We go now to quarter 8. I remind you, there's a 7-minute red-hot overrun.
Burning down the house.
9:45 to 10 p.m. The continuation of the 6-man match. And the post-match with the Elite, Bryan Danielson, Pac, and Will Ospreay, 675,000 viewers.
I can't believe that gained anything, but
7-minute overrun. Adam Page burns down Swerve Strickland's house. 665,000 viewers.
They lost viewers for the home burning. Well, burn, baby, burn.
If you're going to burn a house, do you put it in the middle of the show? Do you put it at the front of the show? Where do you format into the show the burning of a house to capitalize on it?
I mean, it's... And again, the problem is that you couldn't really tease. They figured out a way to do it with the famous Pillman and Austin, and somebody's got a gun and blah, 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 live remote to tease it throughout the show. But how do you tease a guy's going to burn another motherfucker's house down through the show to keep so the people would know, oh, is he really going to burn the house down or not? At the end of the show, we'll find out. It just came out of goddamn nowhere. They had announced a contract signing in the ring. And we see those, regularly. So what the fuck, right?
Missed opportunity to sell tickets for people to see a house burn down?
I don't think anybody would have bought them. What are you going to do? You're going to go out there in the middle of the night and watch this fucking idiot burn a fucking fake house down? Or fake burn it was a real house and they fake burned it down.
Well, that was AEW Dynamite. They're literally burning the house down now. At what point does Shad say, hey, this metaphor ain't funny? But that was AEW Dynamite. Well, Jim, like we said, this is going to be a shorter than normal edition, and there's still big things to talk about, and we'll be talking about them on The Experience this week, including a lawsuit. The Wrestling News broke the news. Kevin Kelly, the boys from Dalton Castle's troop of him and the boys. I don't know what you call them, really.
the boys of Dalton Castle.
I don't know what you call them.
Like the 5 fingers of Dr. T or the hands of Orlac, but go ahead.
But they are suing AEW, Ring of Honor, Tony Khan, and Ian Riccaboni for a number of things, including defamation, and you'll hear more about it. The man who is representing them is a man we know well, Jim.
Well, yes, and that lawsuit also involves breach of contract, wrongful termination, and the reason why we want to take our time in discussing this, the potential misclassification of pro wrestlers as independent contractors when they possibly should be employees. We've broached that subject a time or two before. But the reason why I've been trending and the reason why that this news is out is because this man is the man that is carrying the torch once again for the downtrodden little guy against the big bad billionaire. You know him, I know him, we all know him, we all love him. Play that music.
Call Stephen P. News. If you need to sue. An outlaw mud show or two. Those are the rest.
And yes, ladies and gentlemen, as we said, we will be going into more detail on the various aspects of this suit on this weekend's experience or this week's experience, wherever you find your favorite experience. But one thing that we do know, and they found out recently out in Calabasas County, Stephen P. New does not take cases that he doesn't believe that he can emerge victorious from. So things may be coming to light, and we'll try to discuss this in greater detail on the next issue of The Experience, or the next edition, or the next broadcast, the next show. In the meantime, if you want to get in on the hottest attorney since Perry Mason, then just go to newlawoffice.com or dial the magic number 877-50-STEVE, and Stephen P. New will be on somebody else's case on behalf of your case.
That's right. And by the way, the person who submitted a Stephen P. New song a few weeks ago, they wrote to me to say that the song was not AI. So we appreciate that. We appreciate creativity, whether it sounds like shit or whether it's really good.
Wasn't that the one that we were really pretty easily able to tell that Was it AI because there was no intelligence involved?
Oh, no, there was a lot of intel. Don't insult
Oh,
everyone.
I'm just kidding.
But, of course, if you're insulted, newlawoffice.com, 877-50-STEVE. So listen to that song again. Well, like we said, a shorter than normal edition. There's a lot going on, a lot behind the scenes, a lot of omnibuses, omnibuy, still to come. And we'll be back on the experience before you know it, pay-per-view, the lawsuit. Who knows who else will get sued? Any final words, Jim?
Yes, I'm going to sue you if you don't close this son of a bitch up.
For Jim Cornette, I'm the great Brian Last. Tally-ho!